Trixie's Origins. The ponies in the back of the classroom scoffed. The green speckled egg had barely moved, and the blue filly in the front of the room looked down in shame. As quickly as it began, Trixie's audition had ended as quickly as it began, and the Lullamoons had left the classroom with their heads hung in embarrassment. Trixie forced back tears as she followed her parents through the crowded Canterlot market. Her parents yelled for her to keep up, so she started to trot. At that moment, an incredible explosion shook Canterlot, and an enormous green and purple dragon broke through the roof of the building she was just in. Trixie looked back for her parents, but they were gone, two cacti resting where they had once been. Desperate to help them, she galloped back toward the magic school. Trixie ran through the hallways, turning corner after corner, and ended up smashing into a long white leg. "Be careful, my little pony. We don't want anyone to get hurt." Trixie looked up, and her jaw dropped. Princess Celestia was standing before her. Trixie bowed and explained her situation to the princess. The princess beckoned her to follow, and Trixie happily complied. The princess strode through the hallways with elegance only royalty could have, and paused when they reached the classroom. "Stay here. I will investigate what has happened." Celestia then disappeared into the room. The alicorn reappeared after several minutes, accompanied by a lilac-colored filly, blushing like crazy. Celestia looked down at Trixie and told her everything should return to normal. Trixie nodded her, thanked her, and as she was trotting away, she heard the princess say, "So, Miss Sparkle, I think you will fit in quite nicely as my personal student." Trixie reached the Canterlot market and began searching for her parents. She found the spot where she had seen her parents turn to cacti, and the cacti were gone. So she breathed a sigh of relief and trotted onward. Looking through the stalls, Trixie wandered onward through the market. One of the last booths made her heart stop. Two cacti were standing proudly on display, and a sales pony was advertising the new additions to her collection. Trixie felt herself going numb. She stumbled onward through the crowd and somehow made it back to her home. Trixie knew she needed to find the princess again. She would make everything all right. Trixie approached the palace gates, and the royal guards stopped her short. She tried to explain her situation, but the guards were not sympathetic. The day was nearing its end, and Celestia would be raising the moon soon. Trixie had to act fast, so she used her magic to pick up a decent-sized boulder. The boulder hovered over one of the guards and dropped. The guard let out a cry, and Trixie ran past before any pony could stop her. Behind her, she could hear one of the other guards say, "Someone get down here! Shining Armor's seriously hurt." Trixie darted through the halls of the castle, but was only confusing herself in the maze of corridors. She heard voices in the distance, so she darted into a room containing shelves of scrolls. Trixie opened one of the drawers labeled Star Swirl the Bearded and looked inside. A wizard's hat and cloak sat inside. Needing a disguise, she donned the gear and stole out of the room. As she left, a very distressed lilac filly smacked right into her. The filly apologized and took off shouting something about her brother. Trixie shook the encounter out of her thoughts and went looking for the princess. She found the princess in the weather chamber, horns shining brilliantly to raise the moon. Exhausted beyond belief, the alicorn slumped gently. Trixie went over to the princess and asked what was wrong. I just can't do it on my own anymore. Raising both the moon and the sun takes its toll. I wish... Celestia's voice trailed off as she gazed toward the half-raised moon. She began to use her magic again, but to almost no avail. Seeing the princess in distress, Trixie called all the magic inside her to give aid to the princess. The moon began to rise, and Celestia stopped using her magic, staring at the unicorn filly. As the young pony raised the moon, a magic wand crossing a moon appeared on her flank. Trixie stopped using her magic, and the moon hung high in the sky. She turned to Celestia and explained what had happened to her parents. The princess shook her head. "I'm sorry. I wish I could help you, but if the reversal spell has not healed them already, nothing will. What you did to help me will not be forgotten. That was a very great and powerful thing for you to do. I will not forget you, Miss Trixie Lullamoon." Trixie returned home, defeated and in despair, That night she took the treehouse her father had built for her and strapped wheels to it. This had made a very effective cart for her to travel with. That night, Trixie packed up as much food as she could pull together and headed towards Manhattan. Dressed in her wizardly garb, she imagined what her life was going to be like from now on. On the road, she passed a very distressed donkey pulling a nearly empty cart. The donkey muttered something as she passed, but Trixie could only make out a few words. "Just up and left after the gala. Will I ever find her?" Trixie smiled and looked up to the stars, where she saw her parents' favorite constellation, the Big Dipper. Hope and dismay filled her heart, and she continued onward, smiling but forcing back tears. And that's how that one ends. Well,